Hello and welcome to this revision video. Now this is the third video in the section on the OCR papers part on the road to World War II. And already we've looked at the aims of Adolf Hitler and we've looked at the 8 steps to war, which is the word Scramcup. Now within Scramcup was the letter M, and that letter M stood for Munich. And therefore, one of the massive parts of this paper is focusing on what happened at Munich and the idea of appeasement. Now, as it says at the top left on this slide, this is the first example of appeasement in action. So, Munich Agreement in September 1938 is the first example of appeasement actually being carried out. Now, before 1938, Britain had already given way to Hitler on a number of occasions. So if we're thinking of other occasions, we have got rearmament and conscription, the Rhineland, and joining with Austria. But it was the events of the Sudeten crisis which showed appeasement in action, and it's where the Allies tried to buy off Hitler by giving way to his demands. So we have to focus on Munich because it's such a pivotal moment in leading up to World War II. And the first place to start is in early September. Now, as it says in this box, the German Sudeten Party, represented by these guys in this picture here, demanded union with Germany. Now, remember, the Sudetenland was to the southeast of Germany and was taken off Germany in the terms of the Treaty of Versailles and was given to Czechoslovakia, a brand new formed country after World War I. There were many Germans that still lived in the Sudetenland, and there was a party there who were German, made up of Germans, Nazi Germans as well, who demanded that they should be returned to Germany. And of course, Adolf Hitler supported their claim. Remember, one of his aims was for a greater Germany, and his other aim was abolishing the Treaty of Versailles. Now, he stated, and other high-ranking Nazis like Goebbels stated, that Sudeten Germans were being attacked and murdered by the Czechoslovakians. Now, there was most likely some kind of persecution within the Sudetenland, but nothing to the extent that the Nazis proclaimed. And as in this picture here of Hitler speaking, he said the kind of rhetoric that is displayed here. The Sudetenland should be returned to us, Sudeten Germans are being attacked, and Hitler got to the point where he was threatening to invade and therefore cause a war. He was threatening to just go in there and take Sudetenland back for himself. Now, at this point, Britain got involved. And it's halfway through September. The British PM, which is this gentleman here, with the moustache, speaking to Adolf Hitler, was called Neville Chamberlain. And he was Prime Minister at the time, and he stepped in to think, whoa, we've got to calm this down. We don't want a war. We've got to sort this out. And following what they'd done previously with Rhineland and Austria and rearmament, they decided to talk to Hitler to try and sort it out without violent means happening. Now, when they met over a week, Hitler made many demands and promises, and Chamberlain was very torn on what he should do. He could either give in to Hitler and give him what he wanted, and in an extent, many people in Britain did kind of think that Germany deserved the Sudetenland back, like they deserved the Rhineland back and to rearm. Or, did he stand his ground, and if he did stand his ground, then war could happen. Now, one thing with Chamberlain is that I think, and it's not fair to say that he was naive or foolish, but I think really he did in his heart of heart think he could trust Hitler to some extent. And because Hitler was constantly saying, look, this is the last piece of land I want, it takes back the Treaty of Versailles, what I've always gone on about, I want the Sudetenland back, let's just sort it out, let's avoid war. And eventually, after much umming and ahhing, on the 29th of September, Britain and France agreed to give the Sudetenland to Germany. Now, you got to remember that Benz, who was the leader of Czechoslovakia at the time, was completely against this, as you would imagine. And if you think about it, if you're the leader of Czechoslovakia, you're giving away a huge part of your western frontier, and that frontier is like a buffer between Germany and Czechoslovakia. And Benz, which is spelt like this, knew that if Germany take the Sudetenland, then they were prone to be invaded. The rest of Czechoslovakia would be taken by Germany. Now, Chamberlain and France thought this wouldn't happen. They felt that Germany would just stick to their word, take the Sudetenland back because they've been given it, and Czechoslovakia will be safe. And Chamberlain persuaded Benz to just accept this agreement, and ultimately, rather than persuade, kind of just forced him to accept this agreement. Ultimately, though, the thing with this is that Britain and France had given in to a dictator and had ultimately gone against a democratic country like Czechoslovakia and given into a fascist dictator. But you have to remember, and this is the key thing with Munich, and we will look more in depth at why they chose to follow appeasement in the next video, but you've got to remember one of the viewpoints of Chamberlain is this here that he says in this speech bubble to the left. Why should we risk war over a quarrel in a faraway country between people of whom we know nothing? And this was the viewpoint of a lot of people in Britain at the time. There were many people who spoke out, like, for example, the big one is Winston Churchill, who said you should never give in to a dictator, you should never give him what he wants, because he's aggressive, and he's just threatening, and he's a bully. But many people in Britain at the time did not want to go to war, especially go to war over a little piece of land, and as Neville Chamberlain has put here, whom they know nothing about.